when I talk about it, it might sound like Jonathan has all the answers and has always had all the answers, but most of my knowledge has been learned through pain.
The last time we had you on the program, I had at the end of the broadcast, I asked you, how do you price services?
To be very specific about what you're asking, what we're trying to figure out is in the beginning, where do we even start? And frankly, if you start there and actually do that, you're going to be making wild profits.
Think big, stay small, something I had as a motto 10 years ago when I started out.
How often should you be raising your prices once you already have a good price to begin with?
The very same thing that lots of other people say, and that is the magic is in.
Welcome to Texas. Today we are at Jonathan Pototschnik's beautiful home. We're going to pick his brain about how much you should charge. If you have a lawn care landscaping business, how do you know how to price it profitably? We're going to pick Jonathan's brain on that. We're also joined with Naylor Taliaferro, the lawn care rookie. What's up, rookie?
How's it going? Glad to be here, Paul.
Yes, it is. It is great to be here. And Jonathan recently returned to the YouTube. He has a brand new channel called 5 for 50. So why don't you go ahead and let everyone know who you are and what your new channel is. And then I want to pick your brain about how do we come up with our prices.
Yeah, so my name's Jonathan. I've been in the home services industry for quite some time, in the delivery of service, in software, in coaching. I'm super passionate about this space. I'm super passionate about the future of home services. I think the demand will continue to grow. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. I think you can make a very, very nice income. I think that private equity is coming more and more into our space. There will be opportunities for lots of people to sell their company for very strong numbers. I just am incredibly optimistic, and I like the space, and I like the people in it. So that's who I am. Oh, and 5 for 50, the new channel, YouTube channel that I started, is everything home services. It's everything I just mentioned, and I'm doing it because I love the space, and I'm very optimistic, as I said, and I like to talk about how you and everyone else can go about growing their business and turning these businesses into something pretty amazing.
Yeah, and you've grown 3 businesses to 8 figures.
Mm-hmm.
3 kind of, I mean, they're different categories, but that's very impressive.
Yeah. Yes.
You want to elaborate on any of that, or?
No, I mean, that's the reality I have, and they've all been different businesses, and they've all been challenging, and I've found that all of them take about 5 years to form the foundation so that they can start moving much more quickly. And along the way, the advice that I give, and one of the biggest pieces of advice I give, one of the things I talk about most, is you've got to grow the people to help grow the business. And I've learned that having gone on this journey of building these businesses. I didn't know any of this stuff in the beginning. I figured it out like everybody else. And now, when I talk about it, it might sound like Jonathan has all the answers and has always had all the answers, but most of my knowledge has been learned through pain. Of just like putting my head down and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure this thing out. And I've figured out the very same thing that lots of other people say, and that is the magic is in building a team of people to help you build the business. And so the 8-figure businesses have all come not because of me as the guy that made it all happen, because I surround myself with a bunch of really awesome people that we all work together as a team, and we all got excited about the thing together as a team, and we made it happen together. This is not like my show. There's no way I would have ever got any of this in life had I not got to work with some really awesome team members. Some who became partners or are partners, some who were team members that I hired and, spent a season with me at my businesses. And so, the 8-figure thing is solely a result of all the great people I've got to work with.
Fantastic. Well, last time, and his nickname's JP. So
yeah, I like JP. It's easier than Jonathan Pototschnik.
The last time we had you on the program, I had at the end of the broadcast, I asked you, how do you price services? We'll use lawn mow, edge, trim, blow, just basic maintenance. Somebody's in year 1, Miss, like, how much do you charge? And 9 out of 10 times they underprice it. They don't even know they underpriced it. Give us a tutorial on how to price a service.
Yeah. I wouldn't get too worried about underpricing it. You're going to do it. There's just no getting around it. Underpricing is just part of the game. That's how you learn. The key is that you fix it as quick as you can. I'll give you an example of me being dumb and not fixing it as quick as I should have. In the early days of City Turf, was so focused on getting lots of clients. I'd made up this number. I want 1,000 clients. and I had some pricing problems in the business. It didn't make the client unprofitable. It just, they weren't as profitable as they should have been. But I didn't raise the prices because I was afraid they might leave me, and that was going to harm getting to my 1,000 clients. And that was like so unbelievably dumb in hindsight. I was so focused on this number, but in making that bad decision, we, if I had raised those prices, I would have had more money to hire better people, more money to do more marketing, more money to grow the company, or worst case, the few clients that would have canceled, and it would have been a small number. I would have freed up room for my team member to take care of a client that pays us enough profit that will allow us to hire better people and do marketing, if that makes sense. And so I've, like everybody else, made these mistakes, and you're going to make them, and I'll make them again in the future. We all make it. So I wouldn't get too caught up on that. What you want to do is, as quickly as possible, figure out how to set the right pricing, which is a never-ending thing. You're going to constantly, forever in the business, be looking at your pricing because your vendors are charging more. Labor is going to get more expensive. If you do health insurance, that's going to get more. Everything, your rent's going to go up. Everything's going to get more expensive, which means you have to eventually charge more to the client. And so pricing is this never-ending thing. To be very specific about what you're asking, what we're trying to figure out is in the beginning, where do we even start? And so when we were talking last, I had given the example, and I'll give it again for those that missed it. The idea is that when I don't know how to price, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just start by looking at how do the big guys charge? Like the guys that I aspire to be, the guys that we believe, by guys, I mean companies, these bigger companies that I would aspire to want to be them someday, or they seem to have lots of employees and they have a reputation for pretty good work and their trucks are wrapped and all these things that I want someday. What do they charge? Because what they're charging is how they got all that stuff. You can't go hire Jim for $70,000 a year if you're charging half of what the company, your competitors charge. You just can't do it. It's physically impossible.
So back to the big boys.
Yeah, so back to the big boys. It's really as simple as, and nothing's ever simple, but it's really as simple as what are they charging? Because what they're charging represents the work they've done to figure out what's it going to cost to hire the right people and build the right company and have people in the office and all that. So that's a great place to start. So let's just imagine you start there. And frankly, if you start there and actually do that, you're going to be making wild profits because you don't have any of the costs that these guys have yet. If it's, kind of you in the truck, you don't have Mary in the office, you don't have an ops manager, you don't have a big office, you're probably not paying workers' comp. I mean, who knows what you're not doing yet? That's all margin. So it's a beautiful strategy because now you've got money to really go grow this thing. But what do most people do? They don't do what I just described. They're charging way under market, and then they can't understand what's wrong with them, why they don't have any money to hire Bob in the field and Mary in the office. Well, I just told you why. It's really, that's the solution. And nobody can escape it. And so now let's just, wherever your pricing is, whether you took that advice or you didn't take that advice and you just kind of made up the pricing, this is now going to be the advice that nobody really wants to hear because it's not fun. But if you really care about the pricing, then this is advice to pay attention to. There's a couple metrics that I would chart or track. One metric would be, I want to know what I'm making per man hour. So there's so many people that use, let's just say they do landscape. And so you've got material cost in there. Just for complete simplicity, let's forget about material cost. And let's just think in terms of the labor to produce the work. Because even in a landscape business, generally labor is the biggest item on your P&L, okay? All right, so there's one number that's actually not that difficult to track, and I know Service All Pike can track it, I know Spire can track it, I'm almost certain Jobber can do it, I don't know if House Call Pro can do it, I'm guessing they can do it. Basically, per man-hour rate is I bill the client $100 to do the work, and I divide it by the number of people that did the job. And so if I have two people, when they show up at the account, they turn off the ignition, time starts. They get out, they do their thing, they talk to Ms. Smith, they get back in the truck, they fill out their paperwork, or they complete their work on their mobile device, turn the truck back on. That's the end of the time. You take that time divided by, let's say it was an hour, times the 2 men, that's 2 hours, 2 man hours, divided by $100, we made $50 an hour. This is a really important number to start to understand. And I'm going to try to keep this pretty elementary, and I'm going to describe another number here. The reason why this number is so powerful is, and I'm not even going to get into math here, I'm just going to say at a gut level, you could say, wow, when we do this work, it feels really profitable. When we're mowing Mr. Jones's yard, it feels really profitable. But when we're doing Mary's yard, it just doesn't feel very profitable. Well, the number I just gave you will tell you, not the profit, but it will tell you the difference. So for example, when I did Mr. Jones' job, maybe we're making $72 an hour. But when we do Mary's yard, we're making 40 an hour. Right there, you just got the information to understand where you have a problem in the business. And you just got a clue that, hey, we should fix Mary's account. And you still don't know. I just gave you an example that doesn't teach you anything about pricing. You still don't even know your pricing, but now you know where you've got a problem. So in the early days of CityTurf, I just didn't know these things. But I did man-hour tracking from the beginning, and I don't remember why. We were writing it on paper before I ever built Service Autopilot. And man-hour tracking was like the first thing we put into Service Autopilot because I believed in it that much. I got so many things wrong. I didn't know my COGS back then. I just wasn't looking at the things that mattered. But because I was paying attention to man-hour rate, we fixed a bunch of stuff. So this is a long explanation. Is this okay?
Yeah, and COGS is cost of goods sold.
Yes.
My audience, we think year 1, year 2. We got a simple audience here.
Yeah,
so.
no, and I that was going to be the second thing I was going to come back to. And it is this very real quick pause on this per man hour, especially COGS, or you hear gross margin. And I was the same as probably you. My brain just kind of shut down on that stuff. I didn't like that stuff. I didn't care about it, but I wanted to be successful. But, it's like COGS is, to me, a very, very simple concept now.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, I heard COGS and like, okay, sounds great. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. No, I didn't. We all probably have done this. COGS is, just to define, it's this really simple thing, and there's different ways you can calculate it, but it's basically, what does it cost to produce the work? If I didn't get Miss Smith's job, what costs would I not have? I wouldn't have the labor to go do the thing, and I wouldn't have the material costs. They wouldn't exist. I don't incur those expenses if I don't do her job. That's really kind of simple. So, like, what is it going to cost me to do work? If I'm mowing a lawn, it's real simple. It's, Larry was mowing the lawn for 1 hour, and I pay Larry $21. That's COGS. $21. That was my cost to produce the work, because I'm not including all my fuel, my trash bags, and that. I put that into a different expense category. COGS is just the labor and the materials in the way that most people think about it. It's kind of that simple, but we generally read these books and we watch videos, and it just seems so complex. But that's a really important number to talk about, and I'm going to come back to that after this per man hour. That was the second part of what I want to talk about, because without even understanding how to price, you can figure out for yourself when your price is wrong, knowing these numbers. So back to this, let me give a story on CityTurf. I had started out doing all this commercial work, and then I was doing all this big residential, and I just kept looking at the data and spreadsheets thinking, I think the money's in smaller accounts, which is what CityTurf became. And I got out of everything else. All these people say you can't make any money in mowing. Okay. You're wrong, but okay. And that's what we did. We just figured out that the money was in our market. Every market's different all over the country. In our market, the money was in mowing these small accounts. Okay, so I didn't know how to price that stuff. I copied other people's pricing, but most other people's pricing is not very good. So then what I did, and hopefully I'm not getting too long-winded, but I think I'm trying to give enough information you can figure this out for yourself. I had the property size. So so we would think in property size, your lawn is 4,000 square feet, gross lot, or your lawn's 5,000 or 6 or 10 or 11 or 12. With just man-hour rate and the size of your property, we could see that we make I'm going to make up some numbers, $68 a man-hour when we do a yard that's 5,000 square feet, but when we do a lawn that's 9,000 square feet, we make $48.
Wow.
I don't need to know what the price is. I don't need to know any magical formula for pricing. I can look at that and say, I'm kind of thinking we need to start selling all that work at a higher price. And we add $3 a week to it, or $4 a week. And then eventually the data comes in again in these raised prices, and suddenly your I don't remember which number I said, call it your 9,000 square foot lots are making $67 a week. And that you notice the new offender is your 12,000 square foot lots are making, not $68 a week, but $68 a man hour.
Mhm.
And now my new offender is my 11,000 square foot, 12,000 square foot stuff is making $52 a man hour. Where's the problem? I mean, I think every one of us know no matter how much we hated math in school, could kind of figure that one out. It's like, I think we should start selling that one. I didn't know anything about pricing, and I don't think a lot of people need to know a lot about pricing for a lot of this stuff they do. They just need to know that. It tells you exactly what to fix. And you may not know, if you do some Googling, you could figure out a formula to back into, like, if I was making on average $52 a man hour and I want to get to 68, what percentage would I need to increase this? You could Google that. Heck, you could put that in ChatGPT now. You get the answer, and you know exactly how much to raise your price.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, from a owner-operator, solo owner-operator, to crews, and that whole spectrum, starting from scratch to evolving. I think yet another misconception is when you're starting out and you're like, well, how do I track that? Oh, I got to write all this down, or I got to do this, or I got to get Excel or Google or whatever. It seems like more work to track your man hours, when the easy solution is to just get a software, a CRM like Service Autopilot or Jobber or whatever, to do start and stopping. But then you think, oh, but how much a month is that I have to pay for that, right? So you end up chasing your tail and going around and around and around, and you wonder why you're not growing. Because I've been using, Service Autopilot. Since, I don't know, as long as I've known you, practically. It's been
started
a long
in 2010.
time.
So
Yeah, well, not that long, but I started my business in 2014. So,
Right.
But for many years, I don't know, maybe like 5 years or more, I've been using it, and it's just super easy to track, start, stop. And I recently sold one of my routes, because my route density is so big that I actually sold an account or a route to a competitor that's a friend of mine that wanted to get into that neighborhood. And the number one thing he wanted to do was, let me look at your data. Let me see what your actual man hours are. He didn't care how much I charged. He wanted to know what my man hours were for every single job that I did for all 26 properties that I sold him in that same neighborhood, because that's what was valuable to him and his company. Because then he could really figure out what's the most profitable and how to price it and all these things for him and his business.
Yep.
But if you're not keeping track of that data, one, you're not being profitable, and two, if you ever want to sell anything, good luck.
Yeah.
It's all about the data.
Yeah. In service.
And you can do it the hard way, or you can do it the easy way that you think is hard because it costs more money, but it's costing you more money not to do it.
100%. I mean, one of the just blow my mind experiences of Service Autopilot was the volume of people that would just be repelled by $150 a month bill. Wait, you're not willing to pay $150? I mean, the data I can give you, you will make that back in the first 3 days of the month. I mean, I don't even own the company anymore. I could never, and I'll say it today, I could never get my mind around how people could think that way. Like, wait, this will make your life easier. It'll make you get your job done faster. You can fix your pricing. You can solve all these problems. But no, we're focused on the 150. We're not focused on the outcome.
Exactly. And I think there's definitely a struggle there, a disconnect. And that's what separates the people that are successful from the ones that stay stuck, right? In order to get unstuck, you have to think at a higher level. Surround yourself with people thinking at a higher level. Educate yourself with podcasts and other whatever ways you can to get this knowledge, and then act on it and realize that, hey, you know what? I should invest $150 or whatever it is a month for whatever CRM you choose that you're most comfortable with or whatever, so that you can grow your business the smart way, the easier way. And all I gotta do is start, stop every job. I don't have to do anything else.
So
it does it for me. I don't have to write things down. It boggles my mind that people still use carbon copy invoice pads from some office supply store. I'm like, where are we right now? It's 2024. Please, you're giving yourself more work. You're making it harder for yourself, and then you wonder why you're not successful. So you're going to stay stuck like that. To get unstuck, you have to think at a higher level and do things that you are not doing yet.
Yeah. And I'll bring it right back to pricing, but along the lines of what you just said, and it's along the lines of me talking about how just model the pricing of the competition. If you want to grow a bigger business, why would any of us believe that I will do the marketing, I will wrap my trucks, I will hire better employees, I will fix my pricing, I will get software when I'm big? Like, those are the things that actually get you to big.
So
But that's
good.
the story that everybody says, like, when I get big, I'll do this. Wait a second. Those guys that are all big, they did all that to get big. You'll never get there. That's why you'll
Let's
never
go.
get past 300,000 in revenue. That's why you will work 80 hours a week. That's why you will be burned out. That's why you will be frustrated because you didn't do those things. We focus on expenses. We don't focus on outcomes.
Think big, stay small. Something I had as a motto 10 years ago when I started. I always thought like $1 million company, even though I wasn't one, and I didn't necessarily want to aspire to be one in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to think like one because it makes me so much more efficient. Even at one point, my wife was like, "Why are you doing all these things? You don't even have employees." I'm like, "Because I'm preparing for when I do."
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, and again, I just piggyback on that one. It's this pricing thing again. If you don't, and I already said it, but if you are preparing to get big, you have to have your pricing right now so you'll have enough margin to be able to hire that person. We kind of talked about that. It's the same thing you just said. Like, if you have to do it now to be able to afford it when you're ready. And if you don't, if you underprice everything and you say to yourself, well, I'll use pricing as an advantage right now to get some clients. Well, that's a bad strategy because when you're finally ready to hire an employee, you got to go raise the pricing on all your clients to fix it. How many people are going to do that? They don't. People don't generally raise pricing. I mean, COVID got a lot of people to raise pricing, but how many people were raising prices prior to COVID? It was pretty abysmal.
Yeah, or if you do, you have to raise them so much that you end up losing a ton of
Yeah.
customers. That happened to someone in my area once. He contacted me many years ago and said, "You might get an influx of calls because I just lost a bunch of business. I realized I wasn't charging enough and I raised all my prices." And I was just thinking to myself, "Man, you should have asked somebody before you did whatever the heck you did, because they're blasting the mess out of you on social media saying, this guy, it's like bait and switch and raised his prices on me and all that." Like, everyone was just had nothing but negative things to say because you hadn't raised your price in so long. Your prices were so low that now, it's such a huge jump to raise your price, and you did it in the middle of the season. Like, just so many things. It's like, if you start if you start off the right way, but even still, if you're hearing this or watching this and you've been doing it the wrong way for a while, it's never too late. But don't think you can just all of a sudden raise your weekly mowing by $20, each week in the middle of the season and not have any real explanation and think that that's going to go over well.
Yeah.
And then complain that you lost a bunch of customers. See,
Yep.
that's why I don't rate. Like, so much different, unfortunate ways of thinking in our industry that we try so hard to help others because, I've struggled with my own things, and I just try to share those ups and downs so that we can help each other grow, shorten the learning curve, and get out of that mentality so that we can move on. But yeah, you don't want to wait either, till you have such a huge gap in pricing. And now that's another issue that you're having, to piggyback on your point.
Yeah.
What's the best practice and frequency for raising your prices? Is something you should do every year? What point of the year? What's the right way to do it? Assuming that you quoted Miss Smith a good price out of the gate, but just that, like you said, every insurance is going to go up next year. Everything's going to be going up next year. How often should you be raising your prices once you already have a good price to begin with? And what's the best way to do that?
I don't know if I know the exact answer on this. There's definitely a belief for some around the idea of just do an annual increase. Train your client that there will be a price increase. That may be fine. We don't necessarily do that. This could be me being kind of a chicken here, but I get a little bit of concern around raising the price every single year. This could be bad advice. So I just want to be very clear. I get it because I'm a very big believer in raising your pricing. But in an industry where there have already been a lot of price increases coming out of COVID, and most people do not raise prices very often, I get a little worried about just raising prices every year. Rather than just, this could be very flawed. I just keep saying that, but rather than taking a increase every year, I'd almost rather just do it every couple years. But even then, that's not how I think. The way I think about it is you have to look at your COGS. So now we're going to go back to COGS. Remember, COGS was, what is the cost of my labor to produce the work and what are my materials? If you know COGS, okay, so let's just give an example. let's say that we'll use that job again. It's $100 an hour or $100 job. And if it costs me $40 with labor, let's take materials out of it, your chemical, your bushes, your trees, whatever. Those are what I'm referring to as materials. Let's just do labor, okay? So we're mowing a lawn, real basic. And let's say the labor to mow a $100 yard is $44. So that would mean my COGS are 44%. That is like really elementary. So just think about that for a second. What is the labor cost to get $100? Okay, 44% in my example. And now if I know that number, and I'm going to talk about how we could figure out that number, but if I know that number and it's 44% on average last year, but now that number's 47, I need to raise my prices. Or I've let inefficiency slip into my business. It's that simple. So I don't necessarily, for the 9th time, maybe flawed, I don't necessarily think I need to take a price increase every year. I need to take a price increase whenever we can't we can't bring back our COGS through efficiencies because my expenses have legitimately increased. And they've gone from 44 to 47 in my example. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think what you're saying, like to kind of, have a principle around it, what you're saying is instead of just blindly raising prices every year because that's just a thing, or you think that's a thing or whatever, or you just want to make as much money as possible, which of course we all want to be profitable, but we also don't want to lose business either.
Yeah.
You're talking about looking at the COGS, looking at the actual numbers, looking at when you actually need to raise the price.
Tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah, not just raising the price just for no reason. So being strategic about it.
Yeah. I feel like so much of what we do, me included in this, we just make stuff up. We should do this. I heard we should do this. Okay, well, why are we doing this? And COGS is the guide that tells us why we do it. It could be that the COGS are at 44. Here's another or 42. Here's another reason why you should know your COGS, cost of goods sold, cost to produce the work, is when I know this number, then I can talk to a buddy that I know runs a good company and knows his numbers. And if he tells me his are 33, well, that's kind of interesting. Why am I at 42? Like, what are we doing wrong? A lot of the consultants in the industries know these numbers. And so I can hire a consultant and say, hey, you're actually kind of high on these numbers. Well, now I've got a goal. I was like, oh, okay, well, now we can go on a mission and figure out what am I doing different than everybody else? This number gives you so much data. COGS isn't so much a daily number. To me, that per man hour is the daily number. It's something we didn't talk about is if I'm looking at my data, like in Service Autopilot, we have a feature, I guess it's no longer but we have, when I was, sure it's still there, where you could set a target rate for every service. So you could say, my target is I want to make $71 per man hour on fertilization weed control. I want to make $84 a man hour on pest control. And whenever my data would come in for the day, if it was not at 72 or 84 or above, it would flag it as we underperformed target. I could scan that sheet every single day and see where'd we overperform, where'd we underperform by job, by crew.
Yeah, when you close out the day at the end, it shows.
There's a report you could go to that would give you that.
Well, it actually also just shows you right on your dispatch board.
It does have it on dispatch board as well, but the dispatch board took a little more mental processing, so we built a report. I mean, this is way back, where you could literally scan it. All you had to look for was red down arrow. And like at City Turf, we do thousands of jobs a week, thousands and thousands. So kind of matters to like, oh, there, okay, Miss Smith. And so then what do? It's like, okay, I go to the crew and say, hey, guys, why did it take longer today? I noticed that, we took about 12 minutes more than normal. And then you find out they installed a trampoline. Oh, well, they took the fences down right now. They're putting in a pool. Okay, well, that's fine. That problem's going to get solved. Trampoline, not going to get solved. Whatever. Like, we're going to have to deal with this in pricing on that specific account. Anyway, that was a little off on a tangent, but that's the beauty of per man hour rate. The beauty of COGS is it too informs when you need to raise prices, and put these numbers in ChatGPT and you can figure out, oh, I need to raise price 6%. It can also tell you how much you need to raise them, and you can compare them across companies, across trades. So we were talking in a different conversation earlier. We're like, hey, what's the best trade what's the best, most profitable part of the green industry? Well, I'd my brain's like, well, I could picture the cogs in my brain. Pest control, fertilization weed control, arbor care. Why? Because they have the lowest cogs, highest gross margin. It's that, and that's the guidepost by which you run the business. It's the guidepost by which you raise prices.
So good. Very well said. Is there anything we're leaving out here about pricing? I thought that was good.
I'm sure there is, but I think we gave what I would encourage you to do. Don't be Jonathan of way back in the day, and don't be probably many of us. And have you heard about this? You were introduced to, or you heard for the 9th time, this idea called cogs. Like, kind of watch this video, listen to this podcast a couple times, read about cogs. It just like, let this soak in. It's really simple. I mean, it didn't seem simple to me 20 years ago. To me, 20 years ago, my brain's like, I don't want to deal with that. It's just, what did it cost to do the work? Like, how much did I have to pay a guy to go do the work? It's that simple. It doesn't count fuel, doesn't count trash bags, doesn't count office rent, doesn't count any of that stuff. It's just like that simple, and it's such a wonderful way. And so figure out how to start learning that, tracking it in your business. It will change your future.
So good. Well, thank you so much for the hospitality. Yesterday, Jonathan took me out to dinner. You think he has 3 businesses to 8 million. I could ask him any question I wanted. I asked you about my future wife. What,
you did.
What
did.
questions?
Yeah.
I was the most curious about that.
Yeah. The guy that hasn't, that's been married forever and has no dating advice of any value to give anybody.
Yeah, but I appreciated your advice, and his advice was, on my first date, keep it light and fun.
Yeah, just getting to know him. Yeah. You're not going, you're not.
There you go.
Well, I don't know. It sounded pretty good to me. You don't want to go for the marriage proposal immediately. You don't, let's go have a good time, see if we mesh.
You don't want to scare him away.
Yeah.
Oh,
You don't bring out the what's the thing you get them to sign so they don't take all your money?
Oh, the prenup.
Don't bring the prenup on the first date.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't planning on it. Oh man, but my point in that is, Jonathan has rolled out the red carpet and been so hospitable to both Naylor and I over the last couple of days. Taking us around town, taking us out to meals, having us at his beautiful home here. So thank you.
Oh man,
I have had a wonderful time.
Yeah, no,
thank you.
It's been fun for me as well. So happy to do it.
I just want to also say on that point, the reason why the 3 of us are here is because we stepped out of our comfort zone, Paul and I, to network and get in the right room, to be around the right people. I made a point to go to the Service Autopilot booth to meet you for the first time, to meet the lawn care millionaire that I was binge watching videos when I first started my YouTube channel and business all at the same time, because I wanted to meet you and I wanted to get to know you, and Paul wanted to meet me and meet you, and we all wanted to connect. That was at the GIE, now called Equip. But the point is, get out there and go to different events and learn and grow and get in the right room and network. So we're not just here by chance. We're not just sitting out here on your amazing patio by chance. It's because we were intentional. We came to a different event, told you about it, Jonathan, and you are at the event as well. Obviously, you live in the same similar town as the event, so that's helpful. But regardless, we were intentional. We came out here to learn and to network and to have fellowship. And hey, let's make content while we're here.
Yep.
And awesome. Here we are.
I agree 100%.
Thank you so much, guys.
You bet.